move when we die, so I'm aiming for the sky. Singing in the junkyard while the years roll by. Grand line bound with Smokey, that's the guy. Living free today, no regrets when it's by.
Grand Line Bound, One Piece, chapter 1184. I showed up because I know you guys needed more. The cover page shows Brook getting electrocuted by a bunch of a bunch of electric jellyfish while he's swimming in the sea. And it looks like he's trying to hitchhike because he has his thumbs up. Or he's just giving up like, hey, I'm okay, guys. Either way. The chapter starts off by showing Shuri. By the time she was 14 years old, tales of her beauty began to spread, which led to 5 princesses of nearby kingdoms attempt to try to ask her for her hand in marriage. However, they all failed miserably as the princess whooped all their asses and denounced that she would not marry a weak-ass man, especially one that cannot play music. And especially one that didn't have a fucking cool afro, let's be honest, come on now. Now we see Brook, who is now 27 years old, talking to Shuri about her rejected suitors, which she admits with pride that she whooped all their asses. And somehow she hoped that Brook would show interest in how strong and cute she has become. And she mentions that her, how do I say this? She hopes that,
Today, Junior?
She hopes that certain assets will grow in the future. Fuck it, I'm just gonna say it. She hopes that her boobies get bigger as she gets older, okay? And Brook tells her not to think like that because it's undignified and unladylike, god damn it. You're only 14 years old, little lady, okay? Go fucking read a book or some shit. And I love how as soon as he tells her to act with some dignity, he instantly runs on some females and quickly wants to know the whereabouts of those panties. It's like, shoot, let me see those. Now Shuri hawks her sword at him in annoyance. Pink! Jealous! Now despite that, the two would continue to spend their day singing, "We're all bones when we die." Shuri tells him that she loves his music just as much as her parents do, something that fills Brook with pride. Shuri asks Brook if he loves her father that much, and he confirmed that he does, stating that if it were not for him, he'd be dead by now. You see, when Brook was 11 years old, he lived in the junkyard all by himself, and he would often watch other kids learn music and play instruments. But at the time, he was not very popular because he lived in the junkyard, and he was often chased away from the institute. He was kind of like the Grinch of this time, you know what I mean? Now, in the junkyard, Brook spent his days singing and playing a makeshift violin made out of junk, sometimes singing that the king is to blame for his current circumstances. Reuven would often visit Brook in the junkyard back when he was a prince, although Brook did not realize this at the time. Maybe he figured he was a fan of his music, and that probably explained why he was a frequent visitor. And of course, the prince did not deny his love for Brook's music after all. As a sign of their newfound friendship, Brook made Reuven a stew out of grasshoppers, frogs, rat's guts, a heaping pile of cow shit, and some curry powder he stole from marine ships that came into port. And I was just kidding about the rat guts. He didn't add any of that. But everything else he did, including the cow shit and the curry, which Brook says it will make anything taste like curry. As he took the bowl, Reuven thought about his fancier meals. And he thought about how he was introduced to prestigious women, no doubt, that were meant to be taken as his wife. Boy just got served nice meals and women? Jeez. What a life. He gets snapped out of his daydreams by Brook. And then he proceeds to eat this fucking stew of bullshit. As expected, it straight tastes like doo-doo dog shit. But still, the prince offered to pay Brook for his generosity. But Brook tells him not to bother. They're friends, and they're both going through hard times together. One day, Brook was captured by some Marines, who started interrogating him and beating the fuck out of him, as they assumed he was in league with gangsters to hide drugs that they were going to sell back to the Marines. These corrupt pieces of shit. But of course, these assholes would only find him with curry powder. Now, despite Brook protesting his innocence, the Marines refused to believe him, and they plan to kill his ass, so he doesn't tell anyone what they did to him. Gotta cover up your tracks, I guess, huh? Fucking assholes. Now, believing his time was near, Brook continued to sing like a fucking boss, just waiting for the inevitable. This is some true D-Clan shit, if you ask me, guys. You know, they say the D-Clan smile at the face of death. What about the ones who sing? Anyway, thankfully, Reuven arrived on scene along with the rest of the battle convoy. Brook overhears the Marines call him Prince, and the rest of the convoy asks Reuven to stand back and let them handle this situation. But Reuven refuses, as he cannot forgive crooked Marines for hurting his friend. He's like, fuck that shit! The Marines then overhear a report delivered to Reuven that the gangsters, who were from the Mulan family, were captured, along with their real courier, thus proving Brook's innocence. But the convoy's members warn Reuven that the Marines are still backed by the world government, which will lead to trouble between Hesperia and the organization. But you know what? Reuven don't give a fuck, man. He says that he doesn't give a fuck, because if the world government supports crooked soldiers, then it's surely a sign of the world coming to an end. Oh, how he was fucking right. The Marines beg to be spared, but Reuven ignores them and labels them as trash. But then Reuven and Candel put in work and end all of them. Some time passes, and Brook wakes up at the palace with some of his injuries tended to. And of course Reuven is by his side, where he expresses relief that he's okay. He apologizes for not telling him that he was a prince before, and he expresses that he did not mean to deceive him. He was just having so much fun with him, and you never let the truth get in the way of having a good time. Now, Candil reveals that every time Reuven left the castle, the convoy went into panic to try to find him, but she never guessed that he was hanging out in a fucking junkyard with a child. Who would have thunk, right? She also calls him adorable. This would send Brook into a fucking absolute love spell, and the rest was history. From there on out, the love began. Now, Reuven then announced that he was going to take Brook into the palace with him and make him his personal musician, with the promise of providing him an actual bed, some instruments to play, and also a spot at their school. Wholeheartedly confident that he will one day become a star in their kingdom and liven up the palace. Oh, how he was fucking correct. Now, hearing this, Brook tears up at Reuven's kindness. Now, of course, all of this came at a price. The prince told him that if he wanted this life of luxury, then he simply had to subscribe to Grand Line Bound, to which Brook rejected, because he does not support trash. Thus, his life of living in poverty and squalor continued. Oh well. Let's go.
Singing in the junkyard while the years roll by. Grand Line Bound with Smokey, that's the guy. Living free today, no regrets.